just move to postpone it
Okay. Okay.
to pick a point.
Okay.
These are cool. Very good. I got menthol in my eyes.
Now that I've got most of you seated, I'll ask you all to rise, and the Girl Scouts of Troop 51726 will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I see him. He's coming in. No, that's not him.
Since they are my granddaughters, I'll give them a plug and let you know that they'll be available with cookies until 1:30.
Oh, he's on the run. He can run.
I'd like to introduce everyone at
I already had it.
not at that table, but in the front of the hall today. On my right is Anita Sheldon, our town clerk. On my left is the late chairman of the select board, Ivan Beatty. Next to him is Heidi Chamberlain, the vice chair, Lori Kuntz, Greg Cutler, and John West, other members of the board. And unexpectedly, we have Scott here as our town manager, who I had heard rumors might not be here today and probably wishes he wasn't.
Just rumors.
Just a rumor.
Poor Jonathan's like between.
260 years ago today,
Get immunity.
less 12 days, on March 11th, 1766. 1766, yes. 10 years before Thomas Jefferson and his cohorts in the Continental Congress were gathering in Philadelphia to enact his famous declaration. 11 years before Vermont declared itself an independent republic, and 25 years before Vermont finally became part of the United States, the earliest settlers of this town gathered for their first town meeting, starting an unbroken chain of annual meetings which we continue and celebrate today. No law or leader gave self-governance by direct democracy to us. It is part of our DNA, a very long history and tradition of spirited debates, and the free exchange of ideas is the backbone of our town meetings. Martin Powell, our first town clerk, and the other early settlers of Manchester first exercised this right in this place, not this building. And we carry on that long tradition some 260 years later. It is here we determine and express the collective wisdom of our town, further defining the unique community we are. As moderator, it's my duty to maintain order while guiding us through an agenda which was established by the select board. With your cooperation, I will attempt to fulfill that duty today as expeditiously as possible. Our town meeting agenda is found in the warning on page 8 of the town report. Our actions today are governed by Vermont law, and to the extent not otherwise provided by Vermont law, by Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. With a motion and 2/3 vote, we can suspend any of Robert's rules, but we cannot suspend Vermont law. Among other things, that means we cannot take binding action on any issue not contained in the warning. According to Robert's rules, each voter is allowed 10 minutes to debate each question before us. But in order to debate, you must first come to the microphone and be recognized by the moderator. You may think your voice carries, let me assure you it doesn't. You will not be recognized until you come to the microphone. You'll need a suspension of the rules to speak a third time. In other words, you can speak first, and then you can speak a second time after everyone else has had a chance to speak on that question. But you'll need a suspension of the rules to speak a third time, and a further suspension if your total time is more than 10 minutes. If you choose to ask a question during your time for debate, the time answering your question counts against your 10 minutes, not the time of the person giving the answer. Your debate and any questions must be addressed to the moderator. No back and forth with the select board, the town manager, or any other person is allowed. You must direct your speech to the moderator. It is important that your question as well as the answer be heard by the voters today. Unlike the Congress in Washington, you cannot yield the balance of your debate times to another person or determine who the next speaker will be. We need a motion on each article before we can debate it, modify it, or otherwise dispose of it. We can amend any main motion and amend that amendment once. Then, after debating each, we must vote first on the amendment to the amendment, then the amendment as amended, any subsequent amendments, and finally the article as amended. If you're confused at any point as to where we are or how to proceed, ask and I'll attempt to clarify. Undoubtedly, the most important rule in Roberts is to respect every speaker's opinion and give them attention when they speak. This is a contest of ideas, not of personalities. It's therefore inappropriate to cheer, clap, or question the motives of any other voter in your debate. Debate is decided by our vote, not by the number of people who speak on any side of an argument or an applause meter. If someone has already made your point, consider if it's necessary to repeat it. Now, when we get to voting, if you're not a Manchester voter, please stay in the bleachers. But if you are a Manchester voter, you need to be down in the seats on the floor in order to have your vote counted. Voters standing or sitting outside the voting area will not be counted. I think I already said that. Normally, we vote by voice vote. After we vote, I normally will say the ayes or the nays, as the case may be, appear to have it. Pause briefly before confirming the vote. That pause is your cue to call for a division of the House, which would be a standing vote. You don't need to be recognized in order to make that demand. Just shout it out, and any one person can do that. Votes that require a 2/3 majority are particularly hard to call if the vote is not overwhelming. If I'm unclear as to the result of a voice vote, I will call for a division, which will be counted by the justices of the peace and other appointed election workers here today. 7 voters can request a paper ballot on any question, even after the results of the standing vote have been announced, but before the next article has been moved and seconded. If you request a paper ballot, I'll then ask for a show of hands to see if there are 7 total voters who request the paper ballot. While we will attempt to expedite any paper ballot vote, please be aware they necessarily take extra time, and it may be your voters who are walking out the door because they don't have the time. At any time, if you're unsure what procedure to follow or what question we're voting on, please ask me to explain, as you're probably not alone. Only registered voters in the town of Manchester are allowed to speak or vote at town meeting unless granted permission by 2/3 of the voters present. In an attempt to expedite our meeting and get reliable information, especially from agencies requesting appropriations and our town manager or other town agency heads who may not be residents, or our legislative delegation who will be reporting in Article 1. For the last several years, we've agreed by unanimous consent to allow one non-voter from each agency requesting an appropriation from the town, any non-voter town agency head, the town manager, to speak to the articles which concern their agency without requiring a vote each time to suspend the rules for them. So in an attempt to once again expedite our meeting, I ask you, is there any objection to allowing Senator Plunkett, the town manager, one non-voter from each agency requesting an appropriation from the town, and any non-voter agency head to speak to the article that concerns their agency without requiring a suspension of the rules for each speaker? Is there any objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. With that, we'll begin the orders of the day, which are the warning on page 8. The legal voters of the town of Manchester are hereby warned and notified that the town will hold an annual meeting that will commence at the Manchester Elementary Middle School Gymnasium, 80 Memorial Avenue in Manchester Center, Vermont, on Saturday, February 28, 2026 at 1 p.m. to transact any business not involving Australian ballot voting. The meeting will then adjourn until Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, on which date the polls will open at 8 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. at the Town of Manchester floor meeting. At the Manchester Town offices to vote by Australian ballot. So we're voting Articles 1 through 15 today. Articles 16 through 20 will be voted on March 3rd, Tuesday, at the town office. Article 1, to present awards, make acknowledgements, hear reports from our legislative delegation. First, I'd like to call on Lori Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have two presentations to make this afternoon. The first one is to acknowledge the dedication of the 2025 town report to Joyce Scribner, town lister, assessing assistant, and assistant town clerk. Joyce has given 45 years of dedicated service to the town of Manchester, beginning in 1980. Appointed as a part-time assistant town clerk. In 1986, Joyce stepped up to help the town by agreeing to run for office of lister, while also helping out in the clerk's office. In 1990, a town-wide reassessment required her not only to be in the office every day, but also to attend all Board of Civil Authority hearings, which took place 2 nights a week until late in the evening for a solid year. When Manchester changed from electing the listers to hiring an assessor, Joyce continued on as an assistant assessor. After decades of serving the town in this capacity, she finally retired. Joyce grew up on her family farm in West Timoth, working alongside her father, who instilled in her the unmatched work ethic which she carried with her into her municipal world. She married her husband, Brian, and moved to Manchester in 1956. At the end of 57 years of marriage, Brian spent time in the Veterans Home in Bennington. In Joyce's usual fashion, she immediately started making life better for everyone at the Veterans Home, and even becoming a Board of Trustees member. In recognition of her exceptional contributions to our community, whose caring hard work has helped us to make our town the place we love to call home, she exemplifies the best of community spirit by always putting the needs of the town above everything. Please find the full dedication letter submitted by Cynthia Kilburn on behalf of the Town of Manchester Select Board on the inside front cover of your 2025 annual report. And on behalf of the Town of Manchester, we thank Joyce for everything that she has done for our community. Congratulations on a well-deserved honor.
Thank you all for the start of our meeting. Everyone in this room, everyone working as a team, please continue to do it. Thank you all.
This is a lengthy one. As we say at the office, buckle in. The next, as a member of the Select Board and the Community Recognition Chair, I am honored to share a special recognition for volunteerism through the Manchester Community Service Unsung Hero Award. Originally sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, it recognizes the contributions of local heroes. The Community Service Award began in 1989 while sitting around a family table over breakfast at the Quality Restaurant. A conversation between some regulars went something like this. Isn't it a shame that people that do all of the work usually don't get the credit? We ought to have an award for those people. This random observation was the genesis of what became known as the Unsung Hero Award. Each year since 1991, a committee has accepted nominations and chosen those they felt best exemplified selfless community service. Some years it was one person. Some years as many as 5. Over 80 individual hero recipients of the Manchester Community Service Award appear on a plaque which hangs in our town hall in the Kilburn meeting room. These unsung heroes are the people who keep our community running, quietly, consistently, and often without recognition. They are the ones who turn ideas into events, traditions, and moments that make our town such an incredible place to live and raise families. There are volunteers, community leads, committee leads, coaches, board members, the behind-the-scenes doers who rarely end up in the spotlight but make everything possible. They're the people who raise their hand when help is needed, step in without hesitation, and make things happen simply because they care about our neighbors and our community. The Select Board, recognizing that this is an important event identified with our town and community, assumed guardianship of this annual recognition in 2008. They created the Community Recognition Committee that coordinates this associated tasks involving citizen recognition. For the past few weeks, we have accepted nominations, and we are honored to share that Tom Craigs, or TC as he's known by his friends, is receiving the 2026 Unsung Hero Citizens Recognition Award. I will now take a few minutes to read you a combination of 2 letters that were sent in nominating Tom for this award. We would like to nominate Tom, TC, for the Unsung 2026 Hero Citizen Recognition Award. Tom exemplifies the true spirit of service, quiet, humble, and unwavering dedication to improving the lives of those in our community. I first met Tom many years ago, and he regularly visited my store with a young man named Michael. Tom would help Michael shop, encourage his independence, and patiently support him as he cashed his small paycheck from his weekly office assistant job. After Tom drove Michael home to the grandmother he lived with, over time, it became clear that Tom wasn't just supporting Michael, he was helping the entire extended family. He took the grandmother to medical appointments, did her grocery shopping, and was reliably on call whenever she needed him. Tom also gives Michael an annual birthday outing, tailored specifically to his interests, often at considerable personal expense. After retiring from Orbis, Tom deepened his commitment with service by joining Neighbor to Neighbor, where he has volunteered for more than a decade. He has provided countless rides for elderly or disabled community members to medical appointments in Bennington, Rutland, and beyond, often waiting hours in medical offices before driving them home. He frequently adds a stop at the grocery store so he can pick up essentials before returning home. Many seniors in our community are able to continue living independently, specifically because of volunteers like Tom. Tom also sets up and takes down tables and chairs at the Neighbor to Neighbor monthly movie gathering, and every month he chooses an appropriate film for the senior audience. While he could easily spend his sunny afternoon out on a long run, he instead devotes the time to giving seniors a reason to socialize, connect, and enjoy a shared experience. Beyond his formal volunteer work, Tom has quietly and compassionately adopted several individuals who need far more help than any program could provide. Sandy, an elderly woman with significant health challenges, relied on Tom for transportation, errands, groceries, and pharmacy runs. Her health declined and she became wheelchair bound. Tom simply expanded his efforts, managing her increased medical transportation needs, doing her grocery shopping, and even covering laundry expenses when quarters became hard to come by. When Sandy entered a nursing home, Tom continued to support her until she passed away. Then there's Peter, Tom's condo neighbor, who gradually became increasingly dependent on him for his daily needs. Shopping, errands, library trips, and frequent calls for help, Tom managed the situation with compassion and firm guidance, encouraging Peter to become more self-sufficient while ensuring he received the care that he needed. Ultimately, Tom helped guide him towards the nursing home placement that he required, though Tom still supports him when called upon. You can even find Tom, Michael, and Sandy featured on the Neighbor to Neighbor website, a testament to how integral Tom has become to the organization and the people it serves. For nearly a decade, Tom has continued driving Michael weekly and remains a dependable source of transportation and support for seniors whenever he is needed. So many people in our community live better, safer, and more connected lives because of his kindness, reliability, and selfless nature. Tom is the epitome of an unsung hero, a quiet force whose dedication strengthens the fabric of our community every single day. It is with great respect that we nominate Thomas T.C. Craigs for this award. Sincerely, Cynthia Kilburn and David Cannell. In a time when coming together means everything, we find our greatest strength in one another. We lean on friends, family, and neighbors not just to get through challenges, but to rise above them. Every helping hand reminds us of the simple truth. When our community stands together, we can weather anything. Our congratulations go to Tom, our 2026 unsung hero. dedicating himself to anyone but himself. So we have David Cannell here to come accept his award and then give it to him during their position walk.
Jimmy, go. All right.
Wow.
Apparently have to.
Wow. Good job, Tom.
Heidi Chamberlain.
That was great. You're good at that. I'm gonna have you do that every time.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Today, I am acknowledging Tasman Wilson. Tasman Wilson has attended MEMS since pre-K and will graduate in June. Last year, Tasman was honored with the Collaboration Award from MEMS and was recognized as a New England League of Middle Schools middle-level distinguished student. In April, Tasman will serve as a legislative page in Montpelier for 6 weeks. Tasman attributes her penchant for public service to the influence of her sister Harper, her parents Amy and John, and her grandparents Jackie and Jeff. Tasman also loves hockey. Her U14 team is playing in the state championship game this Sunday in St. Albans. Thank you, Tasman, for doing your part, getting involved, and leading by example.
So, leading off our legislative delegation reports today will be Kathleen James.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am Representative Kathleen James. I'm one of 2 state reps for our Bennington 4 district. And I'm here today with my district mate, Rob Hunter, and Senators Bongartz and Plunkett. And the 4 of us tried to coordinate to make sure that we each cover different topics. And I'm going to try to keep my overview to about 5 minutes so that we can move on to other matters. But I'm going to talk a little bit about healthcare, housing, and then a couple of bills that are moving through the committee I chair, which is the House Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee. So on healthcare, we all know that the rising and unaffordable cost of healthcare is a huge problem for many Vermonters. Important federal subsidies and tax credits expired at the end of 2025, leaving many Americans and many of us struggling or unable to pay the cost of far higher premiums. Early enrollment numbers show that about 2,500 Vermonters have dropped their plans. That's 5 times the rate of last year, and this shift can drive up premiums for those who remain in the pool. Unfortunately, a lot of healthcare policy is beyond the control of the state legislature, but we passed some important bills last year that are making a difference. First, we passed S-126. That is a bill that will move Vermont to reference-based pricing for healthcare by 2027. This is a game-changing cost containment strategy, and under that, there is going to be a set price for every healthcare service pegged to Medicare rates, and that's going to give the Green Mountain Care Board, which regulates hospital budgets and insurance rates, more control over costs. We also, in S-266, tackled the high cost of hospital-administered outpatient drugs. That's, you can think like the chemotherapy treatments that are given to cancer patients. This bill capped the price that hospitals can charge for these drugs. Starting this year, we believe that's going to have a very measurable impact. And in the meantime, the Green Mountain Care Board is playing an active role in approving, scrutinizing, and adjusting hospital budgets, which is actually a really big driver of the cost of healthcare in Vermont. So all told, since last year, we've pulled about $230 million in cost out of the system. So a step in the right direction.
This year, we're working on a bill led by Treasurer Mike Pichek. We are working with other states in a regional partnership to increase our bargaining power and negotiate lower prescription drug prices for manufacturers. I feel pretty optimistic this bill is going to pass. Anybody with a Vermont address will be able to use the new Array RX multi-state drug discount plan. It's going to be available at no cost to the consumer, and it should reduce the price of most generic medications by 80% and brand name drugs by 20%. On housing, I don't think I need to remind anybody here that Vermont is struggling with a housing shortage that makes it very difficult for families to buy a home. This is a huge drain on our economy. It's a challenge for families, for businesses, for our schools. And in recent years, we have been investing money in programs to build housing for low-income Vermonters and to bring more rental units online through a program called VHIP. And then my favorite bill, to establish a new program called CHIP. So CHIP offers a really promising way to help towns and developers use small-scale tax increment financing for important housing infrastructure like water, sewer, and sidewalks. TIF, writ large, is a well-known strategy to spur housing and other economic development in improved districts across Vermont. CHIP will allow the use of this financing tool for specific smaller-scale housing projects beyond our already established TIF districts. In time, this program has the potential to leverage almost $2 billion in financing over its 10-year pilot period. It could support the construction of 7,000 new housing units that otherwise wouldn't pencil out or be financially feasible. It is up and running, and towns all across Vermont are applying. And then briefly, just to wrap, I chair the Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee, and there are two bills, one that we've already passed and one that we're working on that will probably be of interest to folks. H527 was a really tough bill. It took a look at cell tower siting. And since 2007, companies in Vermont that want to build a telecom tower, like a cell tower, have been able to use an alternative to Act 250 and municipal permitting. It's administered by the Public Utilities Commission, and it's an expedited process known as 248A. Every 3 years, this statute sunsets, and it comes back to the legislature to reconsider whether it should continue. Our committee took a lot of testimony, and we came away with a very clear understanding that the 248A process does not work well for communities. It doesn't work well for Vermonters. It's very hard and expensive and confusing to engage in. And in the end, we passed a bill that tried to set a balance between the fact that Vermonters want and need cell tower coverage, our communities want it, and requesting some recommendations from the PUC about how we could meaningfully reform this process and make it easier for Vermonters to engage in. So that did pass the House. It's over in the Senate for consideration. And then data centers. We've got a bill in our committee right now, 727, that is kind of trying to look into the future and prepare for a time when Vermont might see a large data center that we want to locate here. Right now, there's not a proposal on the table, but I think we all know that these huge sites that are being built in other states, they use a tremendous amount of energy, they use a tremendous amount of water resources. There was a bill in the Senate that would propose a 5-year moratorium on the building of any data centers in Vermont. Our committee didn't think that that was the best approach. We're trying instead to be proactive about getting all the right regulations in place if one tries to come. And so we're looking at everything from impact on ratepayers, electric ratepayers, to making sure that a data center would have to pay for any upgrades to the grid or the transmission system, which could actually, ironically, be a benefit to all of us. It could help bring electric rates down. But also making sure that issues around land use, around noise pollution, apparently they're very loud, around our environment, around any toxins, and especially the use of water, is tightly regulated, and that they would have to get, you know, we're trying to put a very robust permitting process in place, and/or make sure that the permitting process we have in place would apply to these under any circumstances. My goal with this is no loopholes. So that wraps for me. I just wanted to, I usually bring my town meeting report. Today, we had a very busy week in committee. I did not get it done. I will have it posted on my website by tomorrow night for anybody to read and download. And I really hope folks that will encourage to come to our coffee hours. Those dates are posted on my website. They're also on page 85 of the town meeting report. It is a great chance to engage in face-to-face conversation and ask questions. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rob Hunter from Bennington 4. As I am on the Education Committee, and I think that this goes to a very important issue in our community, I wanted to talk about Act 73, which is what we're wrestling with right now. But I wanted to just kind of recap how we got here. A year ago, January, the governor threw down his proposal for education reform in the state. And part of this really came out of a backlash from people who were saying their property taxes are too high and affordability is an issue in Vermont, which it is. And as you may or may not know, about 66 or 67% of our property taxes they pay for about 67% of education. So as education costs keep going up, so do our property taxes. And 30 years ago, we had about 40,000 more students than we do right now. So what we have is an educational landscape where we're seeing fewer and fewer kids, and these trends are continuing. The goal of Act 73 really is to maybe right-size our education system. And this does mean, of course, consolidating school districts. We have at present 119 school districts. The governor recommended that we should have only 5, which of course is way too small. And so for last winter and last spring, we listened to lots of testimony, tried to come up with some numbers. Part of passing Act 73, part of that was also establishing a redistricting task force, which was supposed to, over the summer months and fall months, come up with 3 optional maps for us with redistricts. They did not do that. They came up with other recommendations. However, as the governor quite specifically stated, as when we got into session, that he would, if he did not receive a new district map, if he did not get what he wanted, then he would veto the budget, he would stop all the years going forward, and that was that. So my committee chair, Peter Conlon, is under great pressure to come up with a map and fewer districts. So what he has come up with is a map with maybe 27 districts, and these all include supervisory districts. As you know, we live right here in Manchester in a supervisory union. And while many of the superintendents have testified that supervisory districts are much easier to manage, and his map and his language proposes supervisory districts where there are no non-operating districts. So understand that all of our mountain towns that send kids to Burn-Burton, these are non-operating districts, meaning they have no schools and they tuition their kids here. In his future, in his language, there are no such things as non-operating districts. So what happens then is that in his language, towns designate certain schools to send their kids to. So no matter how you slice it, his proposal, my chair's proposal, really does a disservice to our area, to the way that we run our business here, how we have school choice, all of the things that we know that are very important to us here in Manchester and Dorset and the mountain towns. This is not moving forward at all. Not only do I oppose this in our committee, but many of the other members of the committee as well. And not just because maybe they come from a choice town, and some of them do, because if you look at Vermont, there are many places that are very much like Manchester, Northeast Kingdom, Grand Isle, where these people have to tuition their kids to certain schools, and they're very happy with these systems. I do believe that there is a way forward, and what I'm supporting is a hybrid map that would contain supervisory unions as well as supervisory districts. Right now, the Education Committee is stuck. We are not moving forward. Crossover is what happens about March 13th, where all of our bills have to pass out of the House and go to the Senate. There's a good chance this is not going to happen, at least for the Education Committee. There's a good chance that they will give us an extension. However, I find myself in a very pivotal role on that committee as a Democrat, and I think that they would really like me on board, but of course, as I said, they're not going to get me on board unless they do right by our community here and the way that we do business. There seems to be a prevailing attitude that independent schools are the bane of the public school system, but in fact they're not. In fact, we are part of the state's portfolio of schools, something that we should be very proud of as Vermonters. So I will continue to work with whatever I can to make sure that what we have is protected and held up. And I know that Senator Baumgart should probably speak a little bit more about what he's doing in the Senate. So thank you very much.
Senator Plum.
And thank you, Mr. Moderator. So those who don't know me, I'm Rob Plunkett, one of the state senators from the Bennington District, which is Bennington County, and four towns from Windham County. And Mr. Moderator, I want to thank you for the email that you had sent us where you put the legislative report in quotes, because this is my second year in the legislature, and both times right before town meeting week, we sort of ramp up to give an update to folks. But at least on the Senate side, it always seems premature to really give an update. In the Senate, we've passed 4 bills now. Both chambers have passed 3 total, and 0 have actually been signed by the governor. So right now, we don't really know what is going to be happening with the rest of the legislature. You can hear where we are in the particular elements, but stay tuned. As Rep. Hunter just mentioned, next week is crossover. That's when a lot of the work is going to be done, when the bills are going to be passed, and they're going to be sent to the other side. And we don't really know where they're going to go yet. So as everyone knows, education, healthcare, housing, those are the main sort of topics. You heard from Rep. James on 2 of those. You heard from Rep. Hunter on education. You heard from Senator Baumgart's. So I'm going to talk about agriculture. So I'm on the agriculture committee. Senators have 2 standing committees. Agriculture is one. The other is institutions for me. I'm also on the legislative committee on administrative rules. A joint legislative justice oversight committee, and I'm chair of the Joint Information Technology Oversight Committee. But most of our work, or at least most of my work, and most of the work we do is in our committees, not so much on the floors. But agriculture has really been working hard this year. I probably made a joke about a lawyer being on the agriculture committee last year, but it has been something where I've dug deep into it, unintended, and being a lawyer has actually been somewhat useful. So we have a very major bill that we're going to be voting out next week that covers municipal zoning, solar siting, We talked about income tax, property transfer tax, hemp regulation, so we're kind of running the gamut on this bill that we're discussing. But really fundamentally what it boils down to is one thing, is the fact that the cost of living, the cost of our groceries has been skyrocketing. And so we're looking at trying to make Vermont more affordable for farmers, and then through that for regular Vermonters. And so what we've done are a couple of things that are direct. One, there's a program called Vermonters Feeding Vermonters. This is a program in a couple of different ways. It's money directed to our farmers, and what we have done has moved towards almost doubling what the appropriation for that will be. Not enough, but it's something where especially low-income Vermonters or food banks can buy directly from our Vermont farms. Low-income Vermonters can buy directly from farmers. And there's also another program where we're cutting out some of the rates.
Why don't you move up to the front microphone?
I think we'll be okay if I hold on to it.
Okay.
So the other program is run by the Agency of Agriculture, where it's farm to school, where essentially we're going to be cutting out some of the red tape for that. I mentioned municipal zoning. There was a sort of major spring board decision from last May that, contrary to what most people understood, allowed municipalities, allowed towns to regulate farming. And you can imagine that many towns didn't necessarily want to regulate farming, and farmers certainly didn't want that because they're regulated by the Agency of Agriculture as well. We're working on a way to fix that will enshrine some of what was understood to be the farmers' regulations through the Agency of Agriculture and not through the towns, but also give some room for towns to have some zoning when it makes sense. But we're also going to be enshrining in statute what we're calling the right to grow food, where we'll be able to simply grow plants in our backyards, raise chickens, and that won't be able to be regulated by anybody. So further from that, we are bringing hemp under more of an agriculture view, and to some degree, this doesn't have to do with agriculture, but what that will do is it will regulate essentially the intoxicating hemp products that have been more and more prevalent throughout Vermont in the recent year and a half or so. So that's one thing that I'm proud of. Another thing we've dug deep into is essentially solar settings, which the idea is that we're going to be talking about protecting prime agricultural soils. And it's a very controversial topic, and we're going to be trying to tweak that out. And if Thomas Hand is listening at all, I apologize again for how you were treated by my chair and my vice chair. So to wrap it up, essentially, is that we're going to be seeing some interesting things in agriculture coming forward, and but keep in mind what's happening in the next week, and then we'll really be getting into the nitty-gritty for the rest of the session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Congress.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be very quick. So in the Senate, as Senator Plunkett mentioned, we serve on 2 committees. I'm going to speak mostly about education, but I'll talk quickly about my morning committee, which is natural resources. We have focused on salt reduction to keep salt out of waterways. That's a long discussion, but we passed the bill out to do that. We passed the bill out to allow for plug-in, or sometimes called balcony solar. It's a really neat little system where anybody can buy one of these small arrays and just simply plug it in and it effectively turns your meter backwards and you gain a little bit of benefit of solar. Very inexpensive and very easy. We're focusing a lot on water health, especially on the health of our lakes, which are under threat from phosphorus and invasive species. I've been spending a lot of time there this session. Switching to education, which is, I think, the big issue for this community. We've had increases in property tax rates, increases in school budgets in the double digits for the last several years. That is clearly unsustainable. People can't pay their property taxes. And what we've been doing for the last several years is buying down the rate with hundreds of millions of dollars that we could be spending on housing or elsewhere, but we're doing it to try to keep the rate of increase down so that people can afford to pay their property taxes, but they still can afford to pay their property taxes. And so there's an estimate we just put out by the Joint Fiscal Office yesterday that in order for us to justify the rate of increase down to 5% for the next 3 years would cost nearly $500 million. We don't have it. The system is not sustainable. So the question is, and this is why the governor raised the issue at the beginning of the session a year ago, saying we had to modernize the system, we had to transform the system in a way that makes it more efficient and allows us to keep those rates of increases down. And he's right about that. We need to do something. The question is how we get there. And in many ways, it's really come down to the way I begin to think of it as urban versus rural. And the proposal put forward by the House Education Chair with 26 or 27 supervisory districts, which is really forced mergers across the state, would end the tuition program, which is critical to many parts of the state, not just here. It's critical here, but I've really learned how critical it is to the islands, to Essex County, other parts of the state, the whole Northeast Kingdom. And that proposal by the House Education Chair would end all of that. It would close most independent schools. It would attempt to turn a few into public schools. That won't happen because they won't do it, but that's what they're trying to do. My committee, before the session started, spent some time traveling around Vermont, visiting school districts, especially in rural Vermont. And we've continued to take testimony from rural Vermont, and we've developed a very different approach. So while the House proposal would be first mergers, all supervisory districts, which would kill the independent schools, kill choice, kill the tuition system, I've developed a map and put forward, and my committee is working on a map that retains supervisory unions in rural Vermont. That's the key to us being able to continue what we do. Remember that. The debate is going to, in the end, be about supervisory districts versus supervisory unions. Supervisory unions are critical to us. And my bill encourages voluntary mergers, and what we really have is very different educational philosophies at work here. One that is one size fits all, top down, one that tries to get to the same place, bottom up, voluntary mergers, and allowing districts, and especially school systems that are doing a great job, just doing it differently. I mean, one way to look at this is that there are those who are going, oh, that's different, we must kill it. That's not the way the system works. It should work. It's not good for Vermont. It's not good for the school system. It's not good for kids. And that's not where I want to go. In fact, I will not go there. And so I think the Senate is trying to listen to the voices of rural Vermont, maintain the SU structure, and embrace different ways of getting there. As we see here, we have a system that is actually very efficient, less expensive than most of the state, and there is no reason in the world for us not to continue with this, and that's if I have anything if I'm able to achieve where I'm trying to go, we're going to maintain this system. Thank you.
Thank you. Unlike any of the other articles, Article 1 requires no action, so we will move on to Article 2, which is, shall the town vote to appropriate $8,248,285 to defray the operating and capital expenses of the town for the ensuing year, of which $5,341,060 shall be raised by property taxes and $2,907,225 by non-property tax revenues, including $1,525,000 in local option tax revenues, provided that in the event that local option revenues are less than $1,525,000, funds from the property tax relief reserve fund may be used to offset the shortfall in local option revenues, and that any amount in excess of $1,525,000 shall be transferred into the property tax relief reserve fund. Recognize the chairman of the select board, Mr. Bain.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 2.
Moved by the chair, seconded by Mr. Johnson. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And thank you all for coming in on a beautiful late winter day. I wish there were a few more faces out there, but the ones that are here, I thank you very much for attending. The demands and expectations placed on municipal government have grown significantly during my time on the board. Two major issues, among others, recently demanding municipal attention are flood mitigation and the housing crisis. The fiscal year 2027 budget attempts to address this growing demand while continuing to provide the core services that only the town can deliver. While we continue to establish and define the town's role in these emerging issues, we have endeavored to ensure that new initiatives will not have a direct impact on your property taxes. The budget narrative and summary begins on page 21 of your town report. It incorporates several informative charts, and the budget detail begins on page 25. Now, you may be excited to hear that in an attempt to inspire discussion, I'm going to try to simplify my presentation of the budget this year. However, I will be throwing a lot of numbers out there, and please don't hesitate to ask for clarification. The fiscal year 2027 operating budget proposes total spending of $8,248,285. That's the operating budget. That's up from $7,640,018 in fiscal year 2026, an increase of $608,287. That represents a 7.9% year-over-year increase. However, this may not be a fair comparison because the increase includes shifting the funding for the Manchester Community Library from voted appropriations in 2026 to the operating budget for fiscal year 2027. This shows up on page 39 of the town report as a new budgetary line item 01-4-1890-30 in the amount of $355,000. For purposes of discussion, a fair comparison of spending in the operating budget year over year would be to back out that library number since it wasn't in the operating budget last year. And that would amount to a proposed increase of $253,267 or 3.3%. But I feel it's important that we all understand this change in the relationship with the town and the library. A new negotiated agreement established with the library incorporates the library contribution from the town as a line item in the budget, taking the guesswork out of its impact on taxes. I believe that this is a win for both the library and the town. For the library, it allows confidence in the amount to be contributed by the town for budgeting purposes without having to go through the voted appropriation process. For the town, there's no longer volatility in the request. No longer can petition requests impose potentially double-digit percentage increases when we are at the end of the budgeting process. Instead, increases will be now guided by the agreement, which has an escalation clause. The increase in the library contribution to the town will be limited by the increase in the overall municipal budget. So in summary, while it shows up as a large increase in the municipal budget, it is offset by a commensurate decrease in voted appropriations. Non-property tax revenues increased slightly by $20,234 from $2,886,991 in fiscal year 26 to $2,907,225 in fiscal year 2027. That's a slight increase of about 0.7%. A significant contributor to this increase is a projected increase of $100,000 in the amount that we collect in municipal local option tax revenues. The increase is $75,000 in sales tax and $25,000 in rooms and meals and alcohol taxes. This increase is a result of the hard work of the legislature, which we appreciate last year. That changed the percentage of the amount of the tax collected by the towns from 70% or 0.7 to 75%. And so that allows us to comfortably add this $100,000 to the anticipated revenue. And you will also note that the fiscal year 26 budget called for a transfer of $175,000 from the property tax relief fund. That was to stabilize the increase in your taxes. The fiscal year 2027 number does not anticipate any transfer from the relief fund. Again, establishing the amount to be collected by taxes is a simple mathematical equation, subtracting non-property tax revenues from total spending. If we include the voted appropriations from last year, so that we're trying to compare apples to apples, the total spending anticipated in the fiscal year 2027 budget is $8,362,766, which is up $273,267 from $8,089,499 in fiscal year 2026. That's a 3.4% increase year to year. If we subtract non-property tax revenues, it leaves a total of $5,455,541 to be raised by property taxes. When you compare that to fiscal year 2026 of $5,202,508, the increase is $253,033 or 4.9%. Bear in mind that while the total voted appropriation number is significantly reduced for 2027 because of the removal of the library, there are proposed increases in some of the articles this year, which if approved by you, would affect the increase. We anticipate growth in the grand list of 1%, which would have a mediating effect on the growth of the tax rate. We've made significant efforts to try to simplify and make the budget easier to understand, and I think this document is probably the best it's ever been. Thank you, Scott. But it's still complicated. I hope you ask questions, because I want you to understand what we're voting on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I first want to say that in reviewing this budget for over 15 years, this happens to be the first time I've seen a budget. It's reality. The select board has prioritized their spending. They have looked at the revenue, and I congratulate you with that. Rarely do you hear me say that, but I have to tell you. And secondly, I want to thank all the department heads for working with Scott and putting their plans together. I do have questions. Ivan, you got a pen?
That's for the moderator to decide.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator. Last year, you indicated on page 11 there was a highway equipment reserve fund. It's not indicated this year. Your paving budget, page 40, confused at a $200,000 grant revenue line and a $150,000 expense line. If the grant is not approved, there's no money there that the town has put in there to budget for paving. It's a concern. Page 40, screening. line item 018281810, Sweeney revenue line item revenue. Can you explain that to me? Local option tax and meals and rooms, page 41, 3000-00 and 10, budgeted amounts are exactly the same. How can you explain that? They're exactly the same. That just doesn't make sense. Page 41, voted appropriations. FY 2025 budget versus audited. It appears that there's an $87,985 shortfall. Was that overspent, underspent? Can you explain that? Page 31, 1350 and 1360. Summer camp rec and programs changing of dispersion of operating expenses from year to year. Page 53, no line item for revenue from EBS e-machines. Those are the electric machines downtown. There's no revenue line item that I have found. Page 40, line item 142089. I don't think we have a State Street in Manchester. It's indicated that there was paving done on the State Street. So each departmental capital plans presented and transparent to the taxpayer, I find are non-existent. I don't explain to me how Scott puts a budget together if each department does not submit a capital plan to him so he can put it on a spreadsheet, so you can put it on a spreadsheet, so you can put it in this budget. And my other concern is, again, and I know we're at odds with this, but I don't know how you can do a budget when you haven't been audited, and the audit is not back yet. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy would like to answer your question.
Steve, I don't remember all the questions. I'm sorry. What was your first one? I knew the answer to that one.
The highway equipment reserve fund.
Okay, so the capital balance that you see there is from June 30th, 2025. So therefore, that money hadn't been transferred. It's being transferred this year, which was approved last year. So there's an actual balance of $50,000 in fiscal year 26. But it's not listed on there because that was June 30th, 2025.
Are we putting more in there this year?
It's in the budget, yes. You'll see it. It's on page, the general fund section, I think. Yeah, it's on page 40.
Okay.
So you see on page 40, it says transfer to police vehicle reserve $75,000, transfer to highway equipment reserve $50,000, and transfer to fire equipment reserve $148,000. What's in there? And one of your other questions had to do with the rec department, I believe.
Paving was the key.
All right, I'll get to
That's
the
the
paving
major
one.
one that I found.
I'll get to the paving one in a second. For the rec department one, we had in previous budgets just put a blank number in there, like I think it was 81,000, and then all the programs will run under that number. But now we've broken it out for the voters so they can see how much is spent on each program, and also on the revenue side we did the same, so they can see how much comes in from each program this time.
Okay.
Paving, we applied for Class 2 highway grant in April, this coming April, and we're trying to do River Street, River Road, and if we can get that grant, we'll do the whole River Road. If we don't get the grant, we'll just do as much as we have in there, so it's a partial paving at that point.
What's in there? Is there money in there now?
Yeah, we have money in there now. The DPW section, which is page 27 through 28.
How much is in there?
Hold on a second. It's under, I'm sorry, it's under the capital section. So it's under the capital section on page 46. Page 40. I have not written today. Sorry.
And how much did you say was in there?
It's 150.
150.
Right. So if we get the Class 2 highway grant, we can pay $350,000 worth, which should cover River Road.
I just don't want to see, when I was on the board and I knew about from the here, is that at times we were pushing that back in the capital budget. We didn't have the money, so we cut it off, Jeff, on paving. And it appears that he's still behind on paving, is that correct?
I think you can always say we'll be behind the paving, but the mistake that some towns make is not keeping up with it as you go forward. So I've been working with Jeff, and we're trying to, I mean, we're getting less money from Montpelier, and that's what they're debating. They're going to cut, right now they're talking about cutting the transportation fund 15%. And that money comes directly to us, and we apply for these Class 2 grants and other highway and bridge grants. So, I mean, that's 15% less than that we can get. We're competing for a lot of these grants in the towns, and so there's less to go around.
Was there patching paving last year? Patching, I didn't see any line item in there for that.
No, you won't see something for that. We had paving last year, though, Steve, that's in there. Yeah, Elm Street, Lathrop, and the rec entrance, I think we did. No, that was the year before. So. But we did do paving last year. We do it every year. I keep it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
The EBSE revenue, do we need to put a line item in there for revenue?
Yeah.
Is there revenue?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't believe we get revenue for that. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
If
because I
not,
don't-
where does it go? We pay the electric, don't we?
No, the state gets that, I believe. It's a revenue source for them.
Also, you need to look on page 40 with the state street paving.
Zero.
I know, but what is it in there?
What am I looking at, Steve?
Page 40, state street paving.
Oh, so that was, yeah, that's a mistake. We don't have State Street. I think that was Elm Street.
And elaborate on the capital plans if I'm correct with that. Do you get capital plans from Jeff, Chief Owens, the fire department? I know we had an issue with the compressor this year. You had to pull from somewhere to get them that compressor. Does the fire department give you a capital plan?
They do.
5, 10, 15 years out, so you know that you have to budget for that compressor?
They do. They're very good at providing a capital plan.
So each department gives you a capital plan?
They don't give it to me. I sit down with them and we put one together.
Okay. I just want to avoid situations like that happened with the fire department. You know, those capital plans you need to have.
And we do, and I'd like to do some more work in developing a little bit better. We're working on that.
If I make a comment, and I know that we have pushed this around a lot on the board, it appears some taxpayers...
Your time is up. Do you want to move to suspend the rules?
No, I can. Thank you.
Anyone else on Article 2? Brian, vote.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like an additional explanation for why the library has been included in the town budget. This year's increase is 6%, and by moving it into the town budget as opposed to a warrant article, you deprive the town of the ability to vote and to express their pleasure or displeasure with those increases. I'm also concerned because it's not a town property. So I feel that it's more appropriate to be voted on by the citizens of the town as opposed to included in the budget. And the only way to express your displeasure, since it's in the budget, is to vote down the entire budget, which, you know, you're shooting a gnat with a shotgun. It doesn't make sense.
Any Would anyone like to address that?
I'm not sure if there was a question there, but as far as amending the budget, one of the beauties of this forum.
I'll ask a question. What's the advantage to putting it in the budget as opposed to allowing us to vote on it?
Okay, thank you. We spend more with the library, which is a very popular service here in town, than we do with some of our departments that are part of the municipal government. It's been a concern of mine that the quite often request from the library to come in after circulating a petition that we don't have available to us until the budget is already finalized. There's a lot of support in this community for the library. Emotions run deep over the amount of funding that we provide to the library, but every year their request passes quite handily when it goes to the voters. So the voters have shown an appetite for supporting the library. From my perspective, it's better for us to have the number in hand as we're developing the budget, so that voter appropriations as a tail don't wind up wagging the dog, which is the overall budget. So if we can negotiate the number prior to finalizing the budget, we can incorporate that number into our budget, and the impact will be known, and it's not up to a petition which might ask for double-digit increases, which it has, when I say double-digit, I mean double-digit percentages, which sometimes it has in the past. So it lends some stability for us, and it lends stability for the library. I think it's a win for both. I agree with you that it's unusual but not unprecedented that we have contributions to non-municipal entities within the budget. You'll also note there's a $50,000 contribution to the Manchester Business Association, which is not a municipal entity. That's in the budget for the same reason. I hope that answers your question.
Anyone else on Article 2?
Jimmy Longacre, and I'd like to just follow up on the library.
Sure.
I like what you've done to kind of work it out between the two, but it's troubling to me to think that that budget, we have no idea. It's not itemized in our report, and I just think that's a big amount of money not to be have more records on.
Can I say something? Mr. Moderator, can I say something?
You certainly may. If you have the microphone. Keep Gina happy.
We agree with you, and one of the things that we're doing is having a select board person join the board of the library. I'm starting on the board of the library in June, and there'll be a lot of transparency with the library's budget to the select board and the rest of the taxpayers. So I agree with you.
Anyone else on Article 2? Mr. Morrow?
I'd just like to compliment the select board on the way it's handled the issue of the library over the years, and this past year, I believe the library budget is a town responsibility, and I think you've handled it admirably, and that you're continuing to be judicious in how you present getting additional information up front to present to the town. But I'm very happy that the library funds are in the town budget. They belong there. Every town needs an excellent library, and I think you're handling it well.
Anyone else on Article 2? Yes, ma'am. If you could state your name. Jerry, there's someone ahead of you. Go ahead, in the rear.
Okay.
No. Oh, there's a woman in the rear who I recognize first. You're next.
Hello, this is a really brief question. It's more educational than anything else.
Your name, please.
My name is Susan Rega. Thank you.
Thank you.
In moving the funding under the general fund for the library, does that change at all how the library operates or is governed? That's all. I don't know. I just thought I'd ask that question.
Perhaps there's someone from the library here who would like to answer that question for you.
Library director is over there.
My name is Matt Delaney, and I'm the Executive Director of the Manchester Community Library. And the answer to the question is, well, for one, we have invited a select board member to join the board of the library. And I think over the past 10 years since we've been in that building, we have seen the library really continue to operate more and more as a public library. We've seen the growth in terms of membership, we've seen growth in terms of programming. So I would just say it certainly is operating more as, there's 185 public libraries in the state of Vermont. 60% of them roughly are municipal libraries, and about 40% are private incorporated libraries. In our case, our bylaws don't change to reflect this change in the town's budget, but I would say we're always looking to continue to serve as a public library.
Thank you. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. I'll see as it goes forward.
Okay. Thank you. Jerry Pike?
About the library here in Manchester, it's one of my favorite places to go to. There's many opportunities to learn and use their facility as a learning place for anybody. My grandchildren go there. My children go there. My wife goes there regular. I go there quite a bit. I was just there to do my taxes. I'm very impressed on the way the board has come out with one of the better ideas they've had. They've had many in a long time, but this is one of the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Next.
My name is Brian Maggiato. I'm a resident of Manchester Village. I'm going to take this opportunity to pivot from the wonderful library and to give you all a PSA, because I see a lot of familiar faces from our first planning session that happened at the library, that wonderful institution not too long ago. Please pay attention to how much options tax revenue we are relying on to enjoy living in this community. When we think about the future of Manchester, when we think about this town plan, take into account who is helping us along the way. This is $1 million plus, and there are going to be a lot of additional conversations in the coming years about options tax revenue, how much we can charge, where it will go. We talked about the T fund and the dilution in terms of contributions from the state. There are conversations happening right now with the Department of Transportation about allowing use of options tax revenue to subsidize within each one of the municipalities so that we can have a larger fund for ourselves that we generate right here. But when we think about that plan and what Manchester looks like over the next 8 years, I mentioned it before and I'll say it again, balance is everything. Do not take these visitors for granted. They are temporary taxpayers while they are here, and they help subsidize a whole lot of wonderful things for us to enjoy Manchester as we know it. So please, 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 help us continue to enjoy this beautiful place and to celebrate the folks that have helped us succeed in it. Thank you.
Anyone else on Article 2? If not, the question is, shall the town vote to appropriate $8,248,285 to defray the operating and capital expenses of the town for the ensuing year, of which $5,341,060 shall be raised by property taxes and $2,907,225 by non-property tax revenues, including $1,525,000 in local option tax revenue, provided that in the event the local option revenues are less than $1,525,000, funds from the property tax relief reserve fund may be used to offset the shortfall in local option revenues, and that any amount in excess of $1,525,000 shall be transferred into the property tax relief reserve fund. You ready for that question? If so, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 2 has been adopted. Article 3. Shall the town vote to change the maximum interest and penalty allowed by law on overdue unpaid real property taxes and provide no discount for early payment? Current law allows interest of 1% per month or a portion thereof for the first 3 months and 1.5% per month thereafter. A penalty of 8% is allowed on the unpaid balance after the second installment. With payments delivered in person at the town hall, electronically, or by U.S. mail, must be postmarked by the due date, due in 2 installments as follows. First installment due on Friday, September 4, 2026 at 4:30 p.m. 45% of the town taxes and 60% of the school taxes. Second installment, Friday, February 5th, 2027 at 4:30 p.m. 55% of the town taxes and 40% of the school taxes. Is there a motion? Mr. Vogel, Town Treasurer moves Article 3. Second. Second by Bill Johnson. Is there any discussion? Nichols.
Again, I believe to commend Scott with the delinquent tax list, we are now down to 1 page, where at one point we were up to 2.5 pages. So I think kudos, they're getting paid. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, the question is, shall the town vote to charge the maximum interest rate and penalty allowed by law on overdue unpaid real property taxes and provide no discount for early payment? I'm going to skip the parenthetical this time. With payments delivered in person at town hall, electronically, or by U.S. mail, must be postmarked by the due date, due in 2 installments as follows. First installment, September 4th, 2026 at 4:30 p.m., 45% of town taxes and 60% of school taxes. Second installment due on February 5, 2027 at 4:30 p.m., 55% of the town taxes and 40% of the school taxes. You ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 3 has been adopted. Article 4, shall the town vote to exempt from taxation for a period not to exceed 5 years the real estate of the VNA and Hospice of the Southwest Region, Inc., located at 5468 Main Street in the town of Manchester. Jonathan West.
Good afternoon. Just quickly.
You want to make the motion?
Sorry. I would like to make the motion to adopt Article 4 as stated.
Second by Doug Kilburn. Now you can go. Go ahead.
Just as a note, that these typically, we have rarely seen some of these come up in front of us. We're now regulated by the state that says that every, I believe, up to 5 years, they have to reapply for this exemption.
Anyone have any questions?
Has it been current?
Just a minute. Victoria? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Teresa Solti, my question, Mr. Moderator, is what is the total amount that properties in Manchester are exempt from paying taxes? So besides the two that are listed in the town report today, how many?
That is,
And how much total?
if you look on page 50 of the town report, there's a list of the voted exemptions, which total an assessed value of $1,931,500. And while they're exempt from taxation, the town is not exempt from the education tax that would be due on them. And so the total of all those properties is $25,207.
Thank you for directing me to page 50.
Right. Stephen Nichols.
So it doesn't appear that VNA Hospice is on that list of organizations, is that correct?
This is the first request.
Are they being, first time?
This is the first time.
And what's the total tax bill? That they won't be taxed?
Do we know the amount?
No, we don't. You might be able to find it.
We don't have the amount.
I mean, mind you, a great organization, I'm not questioning that. It's their first time, and we're adding to $1,931,000.
I'm pretty sure we used to vote this under Manchester Welfare, Manchester Health Services. That was the president of the board.
Moderator, may I address the
Yes.
question that was asked?
Do you want your
Cast some light, we would appreciate it.
No, didn't hear that.
This is the first time that this body will be mandated by the state to exempt this property, but we have exempted it locally in the past. State law changed, and now we have to go through this process to exempt them where it was done under a different label in the past. So that's why we don't have that information in front of us. They've been exempt. This is the first time that you're going to make that decision.
Thank you for the clarification. Are there any other questions? Martha Howland.
My name is Martha Heileman. I was just wondering if it's possible for those organizations to do what we used to call a pilot. It's a payment in lieu of taxes so that it helps the town. It may not be this full amount, obviously, but it might be something to offset some of the debt or the taxes that would be received.
Anyone want to answer that?
Martha, I'm not sure how that connects with this property. The pilot program is for state-owned properties that are in a community.
Well, it's a similar, in the past, we've had similar payments from some of the nonprofits in Manchester. Bill Green comes to mind. And my understanding is there's nothing that prohibits anyone from contributing money to the town at any time they'd like to. And most assuredly, there is no one in the town office who will turn them away.
Thank you.
Any other questions on Article 4? If not, the question is, shall the town vote to exempt from taxation for a period not to exceed 5 years the real estate of the DNA and Hospice of the Southwest Region, Inc., located at 5468 Main Street in the town of Manchester? All those in favor of Article 4 say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 4 is adopted. Article 5, shall the town vote to exempt from taxation for a period of 5 years the real estate of Adoniram Lodge number 42, Free and Accepted Masons, Adoniram Building Association, aka the Masonic Lodge, located at 138 Spruce Street in the town of Manchester. Selectman West.
I move to adopt Article 5 as stated.
Is there a second for that? Is there any questions, or would you like to say anything?
Just that this one, if you did notice on page 50, since we did have this historically, they're listed with an assessed exempt value of $463,800, with an education tax payment to the state distributed at $6,111.
Are you ready for the question? Mr. Morrow. Excuse me, Victoria first, and then Mr. Morrow.
So going back to Mrs. Heileman's question about a pilot, what would it take?
Could you please move forward to the front microphone? We seem to continue to have problems with that.
Victoria Soulsby with a question going back to Mrs. Heileman's point about a pilot program, pilot system, pilot payment. What would it take to enact that? Is that something that the select board does, like, has a conversation about at one of their meetings? Is it a proposal from the residents? And then part 2 of my question is, do we have any idea about the budget of these properties that are being tax exempt? And the reason why I'm asking, I'm wondering if there's an indication from any of these properties if they receive rental income or payments for renting their spaces on a regular basis. Because if they're getting income from their lending their property out to community members, then I'm wondering if that's an incentive for the pilot payment. Say that 10 times quicker. So it's a 2-part question.
I think it's a great question. I think it's certainly, we don't have any requirements at this point that they have to specify that, but it's something we could certainly bring up at a select board meeting and ask that we make this part of a future request.
So you're going to put that on your agenda, or does someone from a resident have to come and request it to go on the agenda? Mr. Moderator.
Does the select board member have an answer to the question?
I would say that it would certainly help if a member of the community were to help push the request, but it is something we will consider.
Okay.
I think it's in the nature of what was done with the voted appropriations, was to require if you wanted to be listed. You know, if you've never been listed before, you want to be listed, by law you have to submit a petition. The select board establish a policy that after you've been approved so many years, I forget the number, they would automatically relist you for the same amount. But there's a paper agreement that I've seen that requires filing reports which appear in the rear of the town report here. So I think something in that nature.
And those reports are submitted even if there's no change?
Right.
Correct.
Mr. Moderator, may I?
Yeah. Sure. Save me from myself.
It's different than the voted appropriations, and the members that spoke earlier about that were correct. If once you've circulated a petition and you've been on the ballot for a given amount, if that amount doesn't change, you can merely submit a request and we will put it back in at the same amount. If it increases, then you have to go back to petition. This is different.
Right.
Under state statute, if the requirement is at the end of the 5-year period, that organization, whoever they are, needs to submit, again, another petition. It has to be petitioned every time, every 5 years.
And I've been to these town meetings before in March where, wait a minute, my glasses. The Adoniram Lodge number 42 has requested this exemption in the past, I believe.
Yes.
So, but my question is going back to how do we know if they're getting rental income and at the same time they're asking for property tax exemption?
I think that's up to the select board in their agreement that they have with the...
It's up to the town assessor. This is all part of the conversation with the state. I apologize, I'm not at the microphone. But if, well...
Mr. Moderator, can we, like, I don't want to get into trouble for having this sidebar conversation.
Do you have other questions?
No.
Why don't you sit down and Mr. Norrell will beg our pardon.
Ed, you're next.
Ms. Silsby, this is a question for the town assessor, specific to rental income. Yeah, so Mr. Rudd, this is a question for the town assessor. If it is rental income that is generated off mission of their intended purpose with the IRS, then this is what has spawned the issue with the state in the first place. So it would be up to the town assessor to correctly answer that specific question.
I think we're getting beyond the limits of this article, which only talks about shall we exempt for the coming year. There is curiosity about the whole thing. There are ways that the select board can deal with that. It is a required action by the state, but that doesn't preclude the town from asking other information. And I think it's clear that people here today would like to see some additional information.
I think any Vermont that pays property taxes wants to know.
Which could be provided in the future, but can't be provided today. Mr. Morrow.
I think this is a really interesting discussion and overdue. I compliment Victoria for bringing up the questions the way she did. I look at these entities and see, know that they do worthy work within the community. There are many other entities that don't have property who do equally good work. But the town does not subsidize their donations, and we have no real indication of the size of the donations, which may or may not equal the sums that the town is laying out. I think it's about time, given the quaintness of this tradition, that it's good public policy for for the select board to review this whole policy for all of these organizations and establish some guidelines on when it's appropriate for, to request forbearance of taxes and how that benefits the municipal work of the town.
Thank you. Mr. Vogel.
Mr. Roscoe, can you remind this body what benefit the Masonic Temple or Masonic Lodge has to Manchester?
Can I?
In some way.
Is there anyone here from Adoniram Lodge who would like to answer that? Come forward, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Howard Morgan. I'm the
Mr.
leader
Morgan.
of Adoniram Lodge number 42 here in Manchester. First, I'd like to say God bless our troops. I have a short statement here. Members of Adoniram Lodge, the owners of the Masonic Temple on Spruce Street, are hoping for your continued support of our real estate tax exemption for the next 5 years. Masonic Lodge is home for learning, service, fellowship, and community. Relief from our property taxes make it possible for us to use funds that would otherwise go toward the property taxes to be used to support our facility and our activities in the community. Our activities help good people become better people, and please help us help Manchester. Masonic Lodge is part of the oldest and largest fraternal organization, based on our principles of freedom, justice, opportunity, charity, and truth. Our country is founded on Masonic principles. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, John Hancock, Aaron Burr, and James Madison were all Masons. A few famous Masons include Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Winston Churchill, Neil Armstrong, Dwight Eisenhower, Jimmy Carter, Davy Crockett, and John Wayne, and John Elway. Charitable activities of the Masonic organization include that we support the Shriners Hospitals, over $1 million every day from the Scottish Rite, the Children's Dyslexic Centers, disaster relief programs for victims of fire, flood, hurricane. The Knights Templar Eye Foundation is $137 million in treatment and research and patient care. There are many more. Vermont, the CARE program. We fund training the school staff to help recognize and work with students' behavioral and drug-related issues. We also do a holiday coat drive for the Bennington County. Locally, we support Boy Scout Troop 332 for the last 40 years. We have done scholarships for BBA and Long Trail seniors and holiday baskets for widows and shut-ins. And Food Community Board and the VNA Hospice. Our building has been used for therapy dogs, Boy Scout troops, ping pong club, dance classes, wedding and anniversaries. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on this article? Article 5. If not, the question is, shall the town vote to exempt taxation for a period of 5 years the real estate of Adoniram Lodge, number 42, Free and Accepted Masons / Adoniram Building Association, AKA the Masonic Lodge, located at 138 Spruce Street in the town of Manchester. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it.
and Article 5 has been adopted. Article 6, actually, all of Articles 6 through 14 are under the provisions of 24 VSA, Section 2691 and 2692. Shall the town vote to appropriate general funds to social service agencies? The first article is 6, to appropriate $2,500 to the tutorial center. Victoria?
Wait.
Victoria Silsby, can we make a motion to vote on them all at the same time? So we don't do them individually?
You can? Is that what you would like to do?
Yes, but I don't know the wording, so I need
You just did it. You just did it. And Mr. Kilburn just seconded it. So the motion is, shall we combine Articles 6 through 14 for the purposes of approval? And I'm not going to read each one. They're there on page 8 of the warning, continuing on to page 9. If you're in favor of combining those articles so that we vote once for all of them, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and we will vote and discuss Articles 6 through 14 all at once. So it is in order to address any of those articles, 6 through 14, a little unwieldy, but we've done pretty well on time so far. So, is there a motion now that we have combined them? Is there a motion to approve those articles? Okay, Steve Nichols, seconded by the gentleman from Howard Moore. Yes, thank you. So, there is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion as to Articles 6 through 14? Is there anyone who would like, from those organizations, who would like to speak to defend their organization here? Yes. Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am the outgoing executive director of the Tutorial Center. I was hoping to be able to introduce the new gentleman. Our write-up is on page 77, and we downsized from Richville Road last March to across from the community library, which we enjoy having right across from us. One little statistic, we have less ELL students in this last 6 months, but we still offer ELL classes for free to our new Americans. And we offer an adult education program free of charge for those that may not have a different path through one of the local high schools. In addition, in Bennington County, we have, this is the whole county, the 2024 census has 503 people ages 17 to 25 without a diploma, and 450 ages 25 and up without a diploma. So we do offer that service in Manchester. We've offered it at the Arlington Library, and we offer it in Bennington. And thank you for your support over the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Articles 6 through 14? Yes, Thomas West.
Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas West, and I work at the Collaborative. This is, I believe, Article 12. First, thank you for all of your past support. The Collaborative is a nonprofit prevention organization dedicated to empowering youth and promoting healthy communities. We aren't just a service provider, we are a fixture of this region, having served some of these schools and towns for over 25 5 years. Our commitment to your children is reflected in our STARS 5-star designation. This is the highest rating possible in Vermont. It indicates that we go significantly beyond basic licensing regulations to meet elite quality standards and professional practices. We dedicate ourselves to continuous quality improvement and rigorous safety. Our work is not based on guesswork. We are evidence-based and data-driven, utilizing a highly trained staff to implement programs that are proven to work. Because of this track record, we hold the confidence of the state of Vermont to manage prevention efforts across the entire southern and eastern Vermont region, meaning Bennington, Wyndham, Windsor, and southern Orange counties. I'll just list two of our specific programs because they're related to our request for $1,000. We run a Vermont licensed and accredited after-school program and summer childcare for over 75 working families. This is the only after-school program servicing Londonderry and the Mountain Towns. We also provide substance education and services to almost 500 rural youth at 10 schools and the homeschool community. This is our trademarked RTU program here in our area, which is incentive-based, and participants gain passes to popular healthy extracurricular activities such as ski and theater passes. With that, we appreciate your consideration of our request for an appropriation of $1,000, which is the same amount as last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Articles 6 through 14? If not, the question is, shall we approve appropriations in the amount of $2,500 to the Tutorial Center, $2,000 to the Center for Restorative Justice, $1,850 to the Projects Against Violent Encounter, $1,811 to BROC Community Action in Southwestern Vermont, $1,500 to the Green Mountain Retired Senior Volunteer Program, $1,500 to Neighbor, $1,000 to the Collaborative, $500 to the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and $420 to the Vermont Center for Independent Living. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Articles 6 through 14 have been approved. Article 15, to transact any other business appropriate to come before town meeting. I would warn you that appropriate means we can't actually vote to stop the war anywhere, but we can express our opinions about anything. Yes, sir. Oh, this is Michael Allen. I'm sorry, he's a planning consultant for the town. He's not a resident of the town. Is there a motion to allow him to speak? Second, moved by Norman Campbell, seconded by Doug Kilburn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes appear to have it.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As you mentioned, my name is Michael Allen. I'm not a resident of the town. However, I wanted to take this opportunity to let everybody know. The town is in the process of updating the town plan, if you weren't already aware. And this is an important opportunity to share your thoughts on what you'd like to see for the future of Manchester. And we are in the process right now of conducting a survey that we hope to invite folks to provide their input on what you would like to see for the future of Manchester. We're hoping folks will take this survey in advance of our vision workshop, which will be March 16th at the DeConnick Hotel. And we're also going to have 2 other workshops in April to cover housing and economic development. I've been handing out these pamphlets to invite you to these events and the survey. If I didn't get you on the way in, please stop and see my table on the way out, and I'll be happy to share this info. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Silva.
Mr. Moderator, could you help me remember, in years past, we've had a discussion about the pros and cons of asking the nonprofits who are asking for appropriations to be here and to speak to their organization's request. And I haven't heard that discussion of late, and yes, I am employed by one of the nonprofits today that asked for an appropriation.
And reported.
What's that?
And reported.
And reported, and here. And I'm pretty sure I've spoken to that appropriation for about 17 years, because I just celebrated my 17th anniversary with the organization. But as a resident, I'm interested in learning the pros and cons of asking said nonprofits, asking for appropriations to be here.
Well, we can't require anyone to be here, but the voters can decide whether or not to appropriate any of the articles. And I think it's understandable when it's a local organization that they're here, especially if they're asking for a large amount. But take, for instance, the Vermont Center for Independent Living, which is in Montpelier, which has requests in every town, and in Manchester's case asked for $420, to expect them to pack into a car and drive down to Manchester on a Saturday afternoon. Maybe they prefer to take their chances as to whether or not they get approved. So anybody who doesn't come only has themselves to blame. We request, and we have a policy that we talked about earlier, that before the town actually dispenses the money, they have to have seen the report, which is published in the town report in the rear. And I don't know if anyone, Jonathan, wants to add to that.
I will also note that when the town clerk is communicating with these organizations, that this year specifically she did let it be known that we encouraged the members of those organizations to present at this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. The short of it is we don't have subpoena power. Martha Thompson.
I'm going to speak loudly enough so I don't come to the microphone. Martha Thompson.
How about I bring the microphone to you?
No, I can do that.
No.
Gina.
I don't want to make a big, long speech. I just wanted to say that I was here to speak to neighbor, and I am grateful to the town for putting the appropriation in the town report, and we do a lot of things to help the community, and I'd be glad to discuss any of them if people want to ask. But thank you very much for your help.
Thank you. Any other business? Yes, Mr. Buckle.
Hello, my name is Carl Buckle. I'm the chair of the Energy Committee, and I just want to let everyone know April 23rd, Thursday, from 4:30 to 6, we're going to have a workshop on basically the intersection of housing and energy. So it's at the library from 4:30 to 6. Everyone is invited. We're going to have folks from up north who know a lot about thermal energy networks and geothermal, a brilliant engineer who is going to talk about how to save money while saving energy. And the Energy Committee is sponsoring it. It's co-sponsored by the Housing Task Force and the Planning Commission. So again, Thursday, April 23rd, I'll to see you at the library. And if you stick around from 4:30 to 6, I'm going to buy pizza. Take care.
Small fry. Anyone else? Mrs. Dupont. Berlin.
Now, I would just like everyone to use common sense when they're voting on the school budget. Because I don't know how many of you have followed it at school meetings or whatever. But it's a very big change for Manchester and the surrounding area. It's going to be very difficult when they close the Sunderland School and when they bus kindergarten, first and second grade 45 minutes to an hour to get to a Dorset school. So everybody better be thinking about this because it's going to change Manchester. And I think just to know that Governor Scott has said he is not voting for the school budget. And just know it's a very serious thing and it's certainly going to cost you more money. In November of this year, they will ask you to put up $100 million to possibly, and $100 million is maybe the first figure, it could be higher, to build a new school, a middle school here in Manchester. And it'll be built here, and they're thinking of building it across from the existing school that we have here, which has no playing field. I mean, there are so many things that you have to really think about. So just please use good judgment and think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Don't want to interrupt the applause. Two things. As somebody who rarely misses a town meeting.
You changed seats, so this year you moved to the...
Well, I did, because somebody was sitting where I'm sitting.
How do you expect me to recognize you?
Well, my hair's falling out. But this meeting struck me differently. I love town meeting. I love the opportunity to speak. I love the opportunity to fight, to argue, to have somebody running around. That's what town meeting is all about. I don't like the first hour to be people explaining what's happening in Montpelier. I think the organization of town meeting, if anything, the town should be first, or there should be a meeting before town meeting begins to give the local representatives an opportunity to speak. But I think to take the first hour of Manchester town meeting to be what's happening in the state, for me, is something I don't mind going, but I don't want to come to the town meeting to hear that. I want to hear of the town and have our debate. That's it. The other thing is, if for people who want representatives of the groups asking for money to come, the way to do that is not to vote it all 5 in one thing, is have it individually, and the people have to come and present, or someone has to come and present. Don't bulk it out all to 6, and we all vote for 15 things at one time. Let them come in and present, and then we don't have the problem of who's doing what to whom and how's the money being used.
Democracy is not always the most efficient way of doing things.
Really?
We have, unfortunately, put too much emphasis on how soon we can get out of here.
Mr. Moderator, may I
Indeed.
say something?
You certainly may.
And thank you, and thank everybody who's here for being here.
We've had a couple of people stand up to talk about voting all of the articles in one vote. And there is a way to address singling out the ones that did not have someone to speak to the issue, is to amend the article. At the end, when it's getting ready to call a question, you could make an amendment to remove certain articles from that particular vote. But there is a way to address it within the way that we did it here this afternoon.
I agree. Anyone else, other business? Ray Nevin.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank everybody, but I'm thinking of, in this case, our road crew, who's done a great job. We've had a pretty rugged winter. It's not easy, driving those plows around and around town. There's a ton of obstacles, and they have to be ready 24/7. The guys can never leave town. So I just want to say that I just appreciate everything.
Anyone else? If not, I would invite a motion to adjourn until March 3rd at 8 a.m. For the purpose of Australian ballot.
Motion, Bill Biden. Bill Biden. Make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Bill Johnson. All those in favor of adjourning until March 3rd at 8 a.m. say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.